So we're just starting to welcome. You'll see the numbers coming up in attendees. People are coming in. Share on our page, not on my personal page.
Hi everyone, вітаю всіх, які долучаються до нашої сесії. У нас вже понад 500 людей, уже 600. Hi everyone, thank you for joining our session and webinar tonight. We have over 670 attendees and counting. We are live streaming our webinar on Facebook right now, and Ihor, my co-host, is now setting this up. So please wait and join us. The webinar is also being recorded, so if you aren't able to join us tonight, it will also be available post-event. Thank you.
Okay, Mariana. So we are going live. I just wanted to note for our friends that are joining us on Facebook, in the Facebook, we will not be able to answer any comments or questions that are posted on Facebook. So just the people that are watching within the Zoom parameter, we will try. We are going to ask questions. We've, as you imagine, received hundreds of questions, as has the minister and the department in the last 24 to 48 hours. So we have Irena Matsuk and Bogdana Stepanuk-Lipovic, who are here with us from the UCC CUF Humanitarian Appeal Immigration Refugee Committee Working Group. They've selected the main themes, the main questions that are coming to us, to the department by people. Which we hope will be reflective of what you're needing to ask. If we have time, we will get to the Q&A function as well. But we do have a very special guest, Minister Sean Fraser, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, has made time to be here tonight. We did delay the webinar from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Eastern because he was involved in an important announcement with the Prime Minister. So we thank him for his flexibility and for being with us. And we know that this is a very challenging time for Ukraine, and we appreciate, Minister, your efforts and everything. So we will go over to you to make opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind introduction, and let me be the one to express my thanks for your flexibility in accommodating the time change. Obviously, for what I hope will be understood to be a good reason, given the importance of the announcement that was just made with further sanctions. Let me begin by saying, although I'm glad to be spending some time with you, how disappointed I am around the circumstances that we are witnessing, that so many of those that you know are living through. This war of aggression by Vladimir Putin is one of the most egregious violations of international law and basic humanity that has taken place in my lifetime. The principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity and the self-determination of peoples are the values that underpin the international legal order that has largely allowed us to enjoy a period of peace over the past 80 years or more. To see this kind of egregious conduct on the part of Vladimir Putin is something that demands a response. Let me say that the people-to-people relationship between Canada and Ukraine is what justifies Canada's steadfast support of Ukraine. Of course, you'll all know that there are more than 1 million Canadians who claim Ukrainian heritage. My chief of staff, Olga Radchenko, who's on the call today, herself is a Ukrainian Canadian and has been working around the clock to advance some of the measures that we've already announced and to continue to support the work that I'm doing. To do more. Today in the town where I was born, when I left the office, 2 young adults, Anna and Dmitro, who were Ukrainian and were in the town of Eniganesh studying at my alma mater, St. FX University, approached me and asked me to do whatever I can to help bring more Ukrainians here, to help those who are here now stay, and to do more to deter this continued invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin. Folks, I want to let you know that we've been preparing for more than a month now for circumstances that I have been praying every week would never come to pass. Some of the measures involve immigration measures, which we'll get into, but just to reiterate the magnitude of Canada's response to date, and it has not been fully implemented. because there will be more to come. I include not just the Prime Minister's statements of steadfast support for Ukraine, but action that's followed it up. Sanctions that have been shared publicly by Minister Joly and the Prime Minister. Financial support to preserve the stability of Ukraine's financial system from the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Humanitarian aid that's being advanced by Minister Sajjan, our Minister of International Development. Military support, lethal and non-lethal aid being delivered through the Department of National Defense. And of course, for my part, on the immigration front, a suite of measures that have so far been advanced, which I'll get into in a moment, and there will be more to come. So to just bring into focus the purpose of tonight's event is to give information about the measures that have already been announced. There will be more information to come in the days and weeks ahead, and I will make myself personally available should it be necessary to host additional events to continue to make sure that we can provide information that you can rely upon, because in this moment in time, there is a lot of misinformation that goes around about the situation in Ukraine and the responses of different governments. And I want to make sure that you're able to get information that you can trust, that you can rely upon, because I know how important it is to you. So let's go over some of the measures that have been put in place today. Beginning on January 19th, we established a special internal task force and have taken steps to bolster our operational capacity in the region. We started, of course, by extending hours and boosting the capacity originally in Kyiv and subsequently Lviv, but then boosted resources as well to increase our operational capacity in Warsaw, Bucharest, and Vienna by delivering equipment and supplies to key locations, relocating staff, and shifting files to other offices as well to ensure that we were able to provide service continuity. Nous traitons en priorité les demandes de documents de voyage pour les citoyens canadiens, les résidents permanents et les membres de leur famille immédiate afin qu'ils puissent rentrer chez eux rapidement. I'm not sure if we have translation working, so I'll do my best to share in both languages. We've been prioritizing applications for travel documents for Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and their immediate family members, so they can come home quickly. More than a month ago, we also moved to implement priority processing for Ukrainians who want to reunite with family, study, work, or start a new life here in Canada. This includes applications for proof of citizenship, permanent residence, and temporary residence, study and work permits, as well as citizenship grants for adopted children. We're going down all of the different kinds of applications that were in our existing inventory and processing them as quickly as we can. Since January 19th, we've actually already approved more than 2,000 applications from Ukrainian nationals across our various lines of business within Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. For those of you I've spoken to for the third time now with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, you'll note that the number that we shared a week ago was about 1,600. There are a few thousand more applications in the queue, and we are going to continue to treat them in a priority fashion. Yesterday, I believe it was, time is melding together. It may have just been yesterday. The Prime Minister announced certain new measures to support Ukrainians to make it easier and faster for Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and their accompanying immediate family members to return to Canada. I should point out as well that prior to announcing these measures, in addition to boosting our operational capacity in the region, we've negotiated the safe passage of Canadian citizens and permanent residents and their families with countries that border Ukraine to the west, including Poland, Moldova, Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania. We've also launched a dedicated immigration phone line for Ukraine, available both inside Canada and abroad to answer immigration inquiries so that applicants can get assistance faster. The phone number that you should call if you're looking for, excuse me, information is 613-321-4243. I'm going to take a moment to repeat that for those of you who may be writing it down, and I see
just put it in the chat.
has put it in the chat, but 613-321-4243. Applicants and those with questions, if you're using the web form, can use the word Ukraine 2022, no spaces, in their web form inquiry, and their email will be given priority. Again, that's Ukraine 2022, and thanks, Ihor, again for putting that in the chat. Just to give you a sense of the response times, although it may vary on individual cases, typically we're seeing a 24-hour turnaround. and we will have translated information available in Ukrainian on the Government of Canada website in the next 24 to 48 hours. Nous avons également lancé le traitement urgent des documents de voyage et des passeports pour les citoyens canadiens et les résidents permanents, et certains passeports sont délivrés en moins de 24 heures. For Ukrainian nationals in Canada, we know that you can't go home right now. Some of your loved ones who are in Canada are facing travel plans that are simply no longer possible for reasons of personal safety. We plan to extend, we are extending temporary status to those who are in Canada now, and we are issuing open work permits to Ukrainian visitors, workers, and students who are already in Canada. Nous éliminons également les frais de demande de passeport, de documents de résidents permanents, de preuves de citoyenneté, de visas de visiteurs et de visas d'études et de travail. We're waiving fees for passports, permanent resident documents, proof of citizenship, visitor visas, and study and work visas as well. As you can tell, we're going through all of the different tools that we have available and implementing them as quickly as possible. Generations of Ukrainian immigrants, many of whom were forced to flee war and persecution, have helped build our country. We have a strong and united Ukrainian Canadian community across our country. And I want to let you know that you're not standing alone during this hour of darkness. Canadians in every community, when I talk to my colleagues, are rallying in support of the courageous and inspirational behavior of Ukrainians that we are seeing in videos that are being shared all over the world. We are here to protect not just Ukraine, but the idea of democracy itself, which in my view is at stake, given the nature of this war of aggression. So let me be absolutely clear. In this difficult time, we're standing with you. We're working to prepare additional measures, and we will be ready to welcome more Ukrainians into Canada in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today. I'm certain this is not going to be our last conversation. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you, Minister. And I'm just tearing up a little bit. I just saw the Premier of Nova Scotia has announced $100,000 for our appeal fund. So that's pretty good. Okay, tough days ahead. I thank you very much for those remarks, and I know that you're not able to stay with us tonight, but we do have Nicole Giles from your department here, and we have Botana and Irena as well, who ask some questions. So, Minister, we thank you for your time, and we'll let you log off. And Nicole, did you want to make any more presentation before we go to our questions?
I'd be very happy to. And good evening, everyone. I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining you virtually from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I do want to start a little bit where the minister did and open by saying that, of course, we as Canadians and the international community have been watching the people of Ukraine, the families and friends of many Canadians who have been subject to Russia's brutal acts of aggression. Ukraine's cities are being attacked, innocent people are being killed, and people are fleeing for their lives. And we cannot stress enough that what we are witnessing is not just Russia's attack on Ukraine, it is Russia's attack on international law, on the UN Charter, and quite frankly, on international peace and security, on democracy, and on the principles that underpin our world order and who we are as a country in Canada. This is unacceptable. And on a personal note, I would also just like to say I've spent quite a bit of time in Ukraine. It is one of my favorite countries in the world. I've told Olga before, I think the Lavrov in Kiev is one of the most special places in the world. And I tear up thinking about what has been happening there. So I cannot even imagine what you are all experiencing. So just please know that our thoughts are very much with you. So what I would like to do is just to take a moment to expand a little bit on what the minister said in terms of the way that IRCC is supporting the government of Canada's response in Ukraine. So as the minister mentioned, we have been working very hard to get ready We have been working closely with other government departments in anticipation of the escalating situation. We launched our operational readiness team dedicated to Ukraine on January 19th, and we do have a full task force in place. We have been doing a lot in terms of the preparation by closely monitoring our inquiries and by prioritizing the applications that we've been receiving from Ukraine. So what that means concretely is that all applications that have been related to Ukraine, we have had our officers go through our inventory, scrub them, and pull all of those applications to the front of the line. And that's allowed us to approve a significant number of applications. The minister shared with you the number of 2,000, and I'm very pleased to tell you that yesterday alone, while we were witnessing the brutal acts of aggression, our officers approved an additional 270 applications. So we are committed to continuing this processing pace. And yesterday we did launch a comprehensive package of facilitative measures as well. But I think it's important just to flag to you some of the things that we've done as well in terms of our operational readiness in the region. So we have been relocating staff. We have been moving in additional supplies and equipment, such as mobile biometric collection kits in anticipation of increased volumes of requests. And we've been adjusting our operations and offices across the globe. And we do have as well online options that are available for most of our applications. So we've been prioritizing all those applications that we spoke of. And so that covers the gamut, just to be very clear. That's proof of citizenship, permanent residence, temporary residence, as well as permits of citizenship grants for adopted children, which we know is a very important issue for members of the Ukrainian community. And we also do recognize the importance of communication and client service delivery, especially during crises. And as the minister mentioned, we did launch yesterday a dedicated client service channel for Ukraine. I'll mention it again in case there is individuals who are not lucky enough to hear our minister speak, but you can contact us directly via the IRCC web form. Clients can add the keyword Ukraine 2020, no spaces, in the web form inquiry, and that will shoot your email to the front of the queue. We will prioritize it. We also have the dedicated—
Nicole, is that Ukraine 2020 or 2022?
Oh, did I misspeak? I'm apologizing. Ukraine 2022.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you for jumping in, Ihor. We've also set up a dedicated phone line that's available both inside and outside of Canada, as the minister mentioned. And please note as well, it does accept collect calls, which is very important. And that phone number is 613-321-4242. 613-321-4243. 4243 is the last four digits. So I'll just ask that to be corrected in the chat. Thank you. So the other thing that we have done, as the minister also touched on, is that we've implemented urgent processing of passport and emergency travel documents for those who are choosing to leave Ukraine. And I just want to distinguish between that and the prioritization of the applications. So the prioritization and the urgent processing of the passport and the emergency travel documents, once we receive proof of citizenship, we can generally turn that around within 24 hours. And that's really important because we want to make sure that we can support getting documents to people who are choosing to leave. And then the other thing that we've done is we are putting in place as many facilitative measures as possible. And so for members of Canadian citizens and permanent residents who do not have valid travel documents, on an exceptional basis, we've put in place instructions to issue single journey travel documents. And so that will also allow those who do not currently have passports to be able to travel. We've also launched measures for Ukrainians who are in Canada so they can remain safely in Canada. So Ukrainian nationals in Canada can apply to extend their study and work permits, and we will prioritize those applications. And Ukrainian nationals with a valid visitor status in Canada can apply for employer-specific work permits, provided that they have a job offer. And again, we will prioritize those applications. In terms of the following days and weeks, the minister was very clear that there is more to come. And of course, we do know how important it is to keep families and loved ones together. Certainly want to take the opportunity to remind everyone that our existing family reunification programs do allow Canadian citizens and permanent residents to sponsor eligible family members to come to Canada. And as the situation evolves, we are monitoring very closely and will bolster our actions where needed to support family reunification. And in the coming weeks, we are also going to be launching a program to issue open work permits to Ukrainian visitors, workers, and students who are currently in Canada. We are also developing a public policy to waive fees retroactive to February 22nd for certain travel and immigration documents, such as Canadian passports, permanent residence cards, proofs of citizenship, visitor visas, and work and study permits. And we'll have further details available in the coming weeks as these measures launch. So in closing, en conclusion, I do want to underline again that we are monitoring developments very closely. We'll bolster our actions where needed to support those affected by the situation in Ukraine. I'm very happy to take questions. I'm looking forward to it. I will flag that I do have experts with me on the line as well. So we have experts with us on our temporary residence programs, our permanent residence programs, our operational readiness team, as well as from our refugee resettlement team. So very happy to answer questions and looking forward to our conversation.
Well, thank you, Nicole. That was very informative. I'm glad that you had a chance to visit Ukraine and see the beautiful country, and we hope to be there again soon. The format we're going to have, I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of people on the line. So we've asked Bogdana and Irena to join us here. I'm just going to go to gallery view. So Bogdana and Irena are working with our CUF Ukraine appeal. If anyone's looking to make a donation at the Canada Ukraine Foundation, Ukraine appeal at cufoundation.ca is where the Ukrainian Canadian Congress is focusing our efforts. So Irena and Bogdana are working as part of that appeal on the refugee and immigration questions, the many questions that have come up. And so we've asked them to come on tonight to talk about some of the most common questions that you're getting. We'll pose those to Nicole and to her team if further is needed. And then Marianna Salka's here also. She's been monitoring the questions we've been getting in the office as well as online tonight. So we'll do as much as we can. We appreciate all the individual questions. Of course, we're not going to be able to get into individual case specific questions tonight. If you do have case specific questions, there's a phone number, there's the web forms, and then the website. So we do urge you to talk to the IRCC team about your specific questions, even your member of parliament's office if you need to. But we're going to go first to Pani Irena. Irena, can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing and ask the first question that you're hearing a lot of?
Okay, дякую, Igor. Thank you. So what we have been working on so far, just monitoring questions from the community and also trying to foresee. We started this work about, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, not knowing that we will have to face the worst scenario possible. And so we were looking at, like some different ways to bring people under the existing programs at the time before the measures were announced yesterday. And just try to kind of like come up with some creative ideas what we can suggest, from our community. And now, obviously, our focus is on solving all the questions, finding answers to the questions, to get them translated into Ukrainian, have them available on the UCC and CUF websites, and also to, once we know a little bit more about, refugee programs and pathways, then again, like we will be working on that. So my first question is, That is, I see that there were several questions in the chat, and this is something we've heard a lot during the last 48 hours from our community is some people are very concerned about the refusal reasons that they will not likely to return back to Ukraine. And typically, you know, this is something that where they will have to demonstrate ties to their home country, etc. We also were told that there were 2 refusals issued yesterday to 2 of different kind of individuals that were coming to reunite with their immediate family members. I assume it probably has happened before the policy announcement, but I guess the guidance is how do we when we submit applications for our families, how do we convince the embassy, the officials that the nature of the travel truly is temporary for a lot of us, and that the people will come back eventually to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. That's an excellent question, and it's very nice to meet you virtually. So as was said at the outset, it's always very difficult for us to speak to specific cases, and so of course I'm not aware of the specific context of the cases that you've raised. I think there are a broad range of refusal reasons that and decisions that officers can make. I think that the extent to which the applicant is able to demonstrate, and it does sound like these questions are more about temporary resident applications than permanent resident applications, that for temporary resident applications, that if they're no longer able to remain in Canada, that they would have the ability or the intent to leave. And I know that does sound somewhat nebulous, but there have been instructions that of course have gone out to our officers relating to the new measures that were announced yesterday. We call them operational bulletins that then get transformed into the PDIs, which are the directives or the instructions to our officers, and those get published online. So those will be published online in the very near future, but we did want to get the operational bulletins out quickly given everything yesterday. And as part of that, our officers will of course consider the temporary nature of the trip, and critically the ability of individuals to support themselves when they're in Canada or to be supported by others. And I think that that is often something that does come up in terms of being a reason for refusal. But I also think that this is an area where organizations such as your own are able to provide some advice and support as well for how individuals can make sure that their applications are as comprehensive as possible. And this is maybe also an opportunity for me to flag that the largest reason we have for delays in applications is when the applications aren't complete or we don't have full information. That slows us down because then our officers have to contact the client, ask for the additional information, and then wait for that to be provided. So the more complete the application is, the more information that is provided, the easier it is for us to process those quickly, and gives our officers the information they need to make the best decision they can.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Oh yeah, and now we're going to go to Bogdana. So I was going to say Irena I'm in Ottawa. Irena is in Saskatoon. Bogdana is in Edmonton. I don't know, where are you, Nicole? In Ottawa?
I'm in Ottawa, but
okay, I'm
from Kamloops, British Columbia.
There we go.
I'm unifying here with the Westerners.
We never say we're from Ottawa. I'm from Winnipeg. I live in Ottawa. Okay, Bogdana, over to you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Nicole, for answering our question. So basically, I have a very administrative question in nature. A lot of community members outreach us asking about like how people who applied for temporary resident visas in Ukraine can undergo biometrics, medicals, and submit the passports if they are physically in Ukraine. And if they are fleeing out of the country, like, for example, they are getting to Poland to the border, so where they should go in this situation to undergo this, like, currently mandatory requirements that were launched, and is there any way that they can be waived temporarily for just those who are outside of Ukraine? Thank you.
Thank you, Bogdana. That's another excellent question. There's a couple in there, so I'll try to take them in order, but do let me know if I've missed anything, and I'm happy to come back to it. So the first question was around, so what happens now that we have visa application centers and our visa offices have closed down because we don't have staff in Ukraine, and the visa application centers are also been closed by the company that runs those on our behalf. So at the moment, you're quite right. People will have to leave Ukraine when it is safe for them to do so, to go to one of our offices in the surrounding countries. So what we have done is we have bolstered our presence in the surrounding countries. We have increased the number of biometric collection kits that we have. We have more staff that are ready to deploy there as well. And we have those offices ready if the need does emerge to also go to expanded hours. So we are ready to support any clients who do leave Ukraine. And we have all the measures in place to make sure that we can process them as quickly as possible. And what can happen in the meantime as well for individuals who are still in Ukraine is that they can certainly apply online. And the sooner we have an application, the faster that we will be able to issue it once the client does present to a visa office or to a visa application center, so that we can collect the biometrics and make sure that we are following the regular screening measures. And so that's a nice segue to the other question you asked, is will the regular screening measures be followed for those who apply? And the response is that yes, foreign nationals, including Ukrainians, will be required to complete the screening. And this is very important to make sure that we are protecting the safety and security of Canadians, including Ukrainian Canadians who are in Canada. So biometrics will be required for all applicants. But again, what we have done is we have put in place additional measures so that we can deal with any surge. And we have those mobile kits as well as backup if required. I think I got them all, but Bogdana, please let me know if I missed something.
Yeah, thank you. You answered the question. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Can I actually ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So yeah, so basically when we act, like, because I'm trying to nail it down because there were a lot of questions specifically related to that in the chat. So the scenario is the person either, you know, applied online and is traveling to, let's say, Poland, or they come to Poland and decide to apply online, and then, you know, they need to do biometrics and then collect the visa. So do they go directly to the what we call embassy, the visa office, or do they have to go through a visa application office as, you know, normal procedure first?
So that's another good question. I may tag in one of the experts here. They'll kick me under the table virtually if required. But what will happen is when an individual applies and submits their application online, it will be reviewed by an officer. And again, all the applications are being prioritized as long as you put as long as you put Ukraine 2022 in the web form and on your application and you're identifying yourself, we will pull that application, put it to the front of the queue, and then instructions will be given to the applicant in terms of where they need to present. And that's why it's very important that the information, the contact information is accurate and up to date in the application, so that the officer reviewing it is able to contact you and is able to provide information about where they should be presenting themselves. I'll just give the opportunity here to my team to see if there's any additional information they would like to offer. So either James from the temporary resident program or Bogdan from the PR program.
If those folks are on, they can just turn their cameras on and mute.
I must have answered it correctly. So yeah, so you'll be invited to present, but of course you're always able to present at the visa office as well. But we would encourage you to first call the phone number, email us so that we can make sure that you're getting the correct information.
Great. Okay, I wanted to turn to my co-host, Mariana Salka, who works here as our National Outreach Coordinator. She's been helping track the many questions that we've been getting in our office and preparing some materials as well based on the department's materials that we'll be putting out later. Mariana, what are one of the two main themes or questions that you've received that people are asking us about?
Thanks, Igor. So on the questions, we are receiving them from across Canada. We are collecting them, putting them together into themes to see how we can help answer them correctly. I would say the biggest themes were, and you've already kind of answered that, were temporary residents, and there also were questions around, family reunification, family sponsorship, questions like that. So, and those were two broad themes. I'm not sure to what extent can you speak about it, but maybe you can start by saying, like, which family members qualify for travel along Canadian citizens and permanent residents. Maybe you can add something about like what who qualifies as an immediate family member, and is there a pathway to including, for example, siblings or extended family into that definition. I know it's a very long question and comprehensive question. We don't have a lot of time, but maybe you can a little bit touch upon that.
Thanks, Mariana. That's a great question, and one that's very important to us because the criticality of family reunification and keeping families together, especially during these types of crises and what's being experienced right now, is very much front of mind for us. So in terms of the current family sponsorship programs, the current design of the family reunification programs does allow the sponsorship of the eligible family members to come to Canada. And so the family member that is currently allowed to be sponsored is the spouse, the common law partner, the conjugal partner, the dependent child, which includes adopted children. And so that's the definition right now that is being worked with. And those are also those who will try to support as much the rapid issuance of documentation as well, if they are looking to travel outside of out to Canada together. So if they're traveling with the Canadian citizen or with the Canadian permanent resident. So that's the current structure of the program. As the minister mentioned, we are doing active examination of the programs, and this is one of the things that, of course, is being contemplated and is being looked at very carefully.
Great, thank you. Mariana, any other main themes that you wanted to cover off?
Well, I think family sponsorship is such a, in general, is such a big request from across Canada. People are, are trying to get reunited with their loved ones, and they're ready to support with whatever means they can. Just follow-up question to that one is: can family member in Canada apply on behalf of a sponsored family member because they're concerned that the person's access to mobile network or internet will be impossible soon?
That's another really good question. And so there is the ability to identify a representative. So if you're not able to complete your application, you can identify a representative to complete that for you. So we do have mechanisms and ways to do that. If there's any more specific questions on that, perhaps that's one of the things that could go in the information package that I know our teams are looking at putting together.
Okay. I know we have over 200 questions. We're not going to be able to get all of those, but I'm going to ask Irena and Bogdana, since we still have about 10 minutes left. Irena and Bogdana, what are some of the other questions you've seen in the Q&A chat and that are main themes that may need to be raised?
I think that there's just too many, but another kind of common thing, the theme that I noticed was when people are applying for, visitor visa. So maybe like I know a number of people I've heard have LMIAs in place, and so they were going to apply for work permits, for example, etc., seasonal workers, etc. So now they're not able to submit all the documents required, or for example, whether it's experience, work experience proof, or for example, they cannot arrange for translations. I'm not sure if it is possible to do, for example, in one of the neighboring countries right now, or there's could be some other documents missing. So typically in this kind of cases, what we do on everyday basis, we would just submit, an explanation letter on the efforts. Is there any guidance or direction on that? Like when there's, some documents missing, or a document in Ukrainian, for example, that needs to be submitted? Thank you.
Thanks, Irina. Another really good question. So what we do always ask, of course, is that the starting point is that applicants should include all available documents. If they don't have something that's on the required list, certainly we would strongly encourage them to submit an explanation letter and to be detailed about that explanation letter. So for example, explaining that they are in a city where due to conflict, they're unable to access translation, for example, or they're unable to move safely to collect missing documents. And our officers will look at that on a case-by-case basis. We have provided instruction to our officers to be as facilitative as possible with missing documents or a lack of translation. And of course, if they're then able to later obtain the document, they can submit a web form with the Ukraine 2022, and then that will allow us to pull it and then add it to the application. So the fastest way, of course, include everything you have. It makes it faster for the officer, but a detailed explanation will allow us to apply those flexibilities to the greatest extent possible, because we're very cognizant of the extreme situation that's being faced right now in Ukraine.
And I just was checking our Facebook, and some people are asking about those links. So I know Mariana will post some links directly to our page following the webinar, and get that to people. Bogdana, I'll turn it over to you before we have closing remarks. Any other themes or main questions that you've seen in tonight's chat that need to be asked?
Yes, one of the questions is in regards to repatriation of permanent residents that went to just to their home country to see their family members, and then their permanent resident cards are meant to expire. They supposed to come back to Canada on time, but with the situation, they don't know when they will be able to get out of Ukraine safely. That's why they will face the situations that they need to request a permanent residence travel document, but there is no, and it's done in a paper-based application, and the post is not working or it's not reliable enough. So they need to get to the other country to file it. And also there is a concern that in this case, like they may overstay and will not qualify for citizenship or extension of the PR card just because of the residency requirements.
I can understand that that would be very stressful situation for people to be in. What we would provide for and what we have provided for is that the permanent resident travel documents can be received electronically. And so that does allow individuals to apply for their permanent resident card or that extension electronically, so that the situation that you've described is one that can be avoided. So what we would encourage them to do is to go to those online applications, again, use the Ukraine 2020, and then we'll be able to process them electronically and make sure that people receive the extensions and receive the travel documents they need to be able to return back to Canada safely.
Thank you for the answering.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give the last word to Mariana, and then I'll just have a closing remark on what people can do generally. Mariana, what's your final final theme or final question that you're hearing a lot of from what's coming into the UCC inbox?
You know, there are plenty. There are on the same topic. I think what we can do is collect those questions that we are receiving right now and receiving over email, and try to put them into themes and work with Irina and Bogdana, as well as with IRC, to somehow find answers to those questions. Irina and Bogdana are certified immigration consultants, and we would be able to try to answer them for you, because we are already like up to 200 questions here in the chat, as well as probably 200 emails in our inbox. So I think we'll just be putting them together to try to have generalized answers, because there are like specific cases that we cannot speak about right now, because it will take too much time. So
okay, so I'm going to take the opportunity now. I'm sharing this is the UCC site, ucc.ca. So these are the two things I just wanted to leave people with. If you go to our main page, on the left is this is the update from IRCC, which we'll go to right away. On the right is the Ukraine humanitarian appeal that I mentioned that you can make a donation to, as well as our Stand With Ukraine information and more information about writing to your MP and our other asks. So I'll just click on this, and this takes us to the IRCC page. Again, we'll put those links on our Facebook, but this is a quick way for you to find them. And here there is information with some more details on what will be available. And I think on that note, we will thank Nicole and her team, thank the Minister Gors for participating. A week ago, I don't think any of us would have thought that we were having this kind of a webinar that would be asking these kind of questions. It's been good to have a dialogue with the government. We understand, I understand, I have family, you have family, we all have family in Ukraine who are going through very difficult days and hours, and the situation is changing very quickly. And we will continue, the UCC's role in your local community at a provincial and at a national level is to work to support our community. So Irina, Bogdana, thank you for the amazing volunteer work that you're doing. In addition to your day jobs, your night jobs, and your roles as parents and everything else you're doing in the community. And Mariana, thank you for tracking all the incoming incoming information that is coming to us on this from the government. There are almost daily updates at this point, and we're working with the IRCC team to track it, to get it out to people, and to make sure that it's accessible. So on that note, I would sort of say again, thank you to all of the people who've joined us tonight. We will be watching what happens in the next days and hours. We know that the Ukrainian armed forces are being very successful, very brave, and Russia has not yet occupied any cities. And we know that they will have a very difficult fight on their hands, because our Ukrainian brothers and sisters are giving them a hell of a fight and will not surrender. So on that note, we're going to wrap up this webinar. We thank everybody for their participation and interest. We will have lots of material posted on UCC. We thank the IRCC team for joining us on a Friday night, and wish them well in working with you in the weeks and days ahead, which will be difficult, no doubt. So thank you, everybody. Dobranic.
Dobranic.